Shalom everyone and welcome back. This is Coffee Talk, but I'll be having my tea today. Thank you so much. Tequila Sachs, she makes the best tea. What's that? Yes, that's right. Today's topic is order, seder.
If you come to a messy house, you don't have seder in
100%. We have a lot of women here today, and women understand order in a way more profound way than men do, because men live in a world of chaos, and we like to create chaos, because through chaos we bring order. But women need to have order. We'll explain that a little bit as we go along. But let me just make a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiya bidvaro.
Amen.
This quote is from my mom. If she listens later, external disorder is often a reflection of internal disarray. Okay, which means that when you see disorder on a chitzoni level, on an outside level, all too often, this is a reflection of what's happening on the inside. We'll see some stories that kind of explain that and illustrate that. But why are we talking about order? If this conversation is about Middot, right? And we're talking about the development of Middot. We spoke about the idea of needing to have alacrity, of speed, of moving things. We spoke about the idea of having humility. We spoke about chesed. We spoke about gvura. We spoke about, we spoke about all these things, right? Zrizut and trust. How does order fit into this paradigm of building ourselves up as human beings, of building our character, becoming bigger, better, greater human beings? Where does this concept of order fit into this conversation of Middot? So let's look at source number 2. For those of you who don't have it, if you want it, I'm sorry, I'll send it to you. I should really post it up on this chat here. So it says like this. Or Yisrael, this is Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says, first, a person should put his house together, then his town, then the world. When there is too little order, the result is chaos. At the other end of the range, too much order gives rise to obsessiveness and rigidity. The best in order lies between these extremes. So what's he saying? Remember, there's a klal. There is a very, very clear rule that we always speak about. Any trait, any midah to any extreme is bad. Too much chesed, bad, no good. Too much charity, bad. There's a limitation. There needs to be a gvul. There needs to be a boundary. We speak about boundaries in our lives. We have marriage creates boundaries. That's kedusha. The day that the day that you walked under the chuppah, you made a boundary. That's what's supposed to happen at a chuppah. I'm creating a boundary between myself and yourself and everybody else. Okay? For me and you, it's inclusivity and exclusivity. And for everybody else, it's exclusively, I'm not interested in you, we're just me and my spouse. Okay? So any extreme in any midah is bad. Too much rigidity leads to obsessiveness. Obsessiveness can destroy a child. I'll give you an example. This is a very important teaching principle for kids. Every child has a limit to how much free will they can exert. This is also true for adults. They measured this. They did these tests many years ago. I speak about it often, where they took a group of college students and they brought them into a room, and in the room they just finished baking fresh hot chocolate chip cookies. Okay, and they told this one group, there's a plate filled with chocolate chip cookies and another plate, a bowl filled with radishes, clean and everything, beautiful radishes. And they told them you could only eat the radishes. Okay, this was the test. You can't have chocolate chip cookies. They wanted to see, because now they're looking at the radish, they're hungry, it's lunchtime, and they want a chocolate chip cookie. It smells so amazing. Who doesn't want a hot chocolate chip cookie? Okay, so this is the real test. What they did was, after they, for an hour, sat there, and they could only eat radishes during lunchtime and not eat the cookies, they gave them a puzzle to solve. And they wanted to see if they could solve the puzzle. The puzzle was impossible to solve. And what they were really measuring is how much they would try, how often they would try before they gave up completely. Okay? So that was the first group. Second group, same exact scenario. It's college students, chocolate chip cookie, radishes. But this group could only eat the chocolate chip cookies. They were not allowed to eat the radishes. And they were given the same test that the other group was given. And they wanted to see how much this group would try before they gave up. So the first group that could only eat the radishes tried 18 times before they gave up. The second group that could eat the cookies and not the radishes, tried on average 54 times before giving up. Yeah. So now the question is why? Why did one group have put so much effort into solving this problem, which is unsolvable, whereas this other group, tried so little? And the answer that they gave is that we have a certain amount of bechira that we can use, a free will we can use. So they spent an hour wasting their mental bandwidth on trying not to take the cookie and having a radish, right? And the other group, it wasn't an issue. There was no exhaustion of free will choices, right? So for them, the normal free will, a normal person, when they have a problem they can't solve, will try 54 times. But when you exhaust it, okay, you try less and less and less. Now, why am I using this example? Okay, so we're being overly rigid. You come home and I see my kids, they made a big balagan gadol, massive mess in my house. Okay, so what do? So I come home and I say to them, you got to clean up this mess right now. I don't care what's going on over here. You made a mess, you got to clean it up. So there's two ways of getting them to clean the mess. Number one, is it natural for a child to want to bring order into a place of chaos? The answer is big fat no. No. Children love making messes. They learn from it. Messes help them understand their world. Okay, fixing it is very hard for them. Now, so there's two ways I could do it. I could either go hardcore building, right? You do this now, fire and brimstone. If you don't do it, no ice cream, no dessert, no friends, no nothing. I take everything away from you, no toys. You'll be forever punished and condemned to a life of servitude, right? Or I say to them, you know what? I understand that you only have so much limited bandwidth. Okay, I'm going to sit down with you and help you clean up together. I'm going to teach you how to clean up the toys together. Now, which kid is going to come out feeling successful and listening to the parent? The kid that has to do it on his own, or the kid that's getting help with the parent? And why am I doing it with them? I'm doing it for two reasons. One is to show them how to take care of that. It's not too much for me to do it. You can do it. And two is that I know that if I ask them to do this now, clean up the toys, and I could burn them and force them to do it, just like in the cookie experiment, later they're not going to go to sleep on time. Later they're not going to eat their dinner because I already exhausted their free will. They want to do whatever they want to do. So I am limiting how they are expressing their free choice, okay, helping them, so that later I can get them to do other things they need to do. I'm building called equity in trust equity. Too much obsessiveness destroys the equity in the people around you. We have to create space for people to make mistakes. We have to create space for people to get things wrong sometimes. We have to create space where we could go ahead and be involved in that process. I'm not saying we don't want order. We definitely want order in our lives. We want order in everything that we do. But there's going to be a cost to that orderliness. There's going to be a price you're going to have to pay for orderliness. The Pasuk in Bamidbar says, "V'nachu b'nei Yisrael ish al machanehu v'ish al diglo litzvotam." Right? There was order.
That's it.
The Jewish people were made. That's right. There was a encampment. Each man had his own camp, and each man by his own division. That's right. There was a different color to their flag, a different emblem, a different sigil, and each tribe had their own unique way of expressing that orderliness. Okay, which is fine. So we see that there is value to order, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have order. I want you to have order. Order is important. We see this happening in the Torah. God tells the people, "Ish adigalo." Each person, you can't give chaos. It can't be hefker, do whatever you want, go wherever you want. There has to be order in our lives. We need order. Okay, as a matter of fact, people that are successful because of the order they bring into their worlds. Success comes from creating boundaries. That's what order is. So, look at Rav Dessler, number 4. He says there's 3 things you have to be aware of when it comes to order. Number 1, order is good because knowing that things are well arranged creates a feeling of confidence that everything is under control. A child who lives in a house where there's a balagan gadol, where there's a big mess, that kid is going to have insecurity issues. Doesn't feel safe. Order creates a level of safety. Number 2, order helps you find things when you need them and saves you the time that it won't be lost looking for them. How many times we look for, where did I put my phone? Where did I put my glasses? Where did I put my this? If you had an order in your life, okay, take the dementia out of it, of course, talking about healthy people, right? If we had an order of how I know exactly where I put my things down. Why? Because I created a habit of putting things. When I'm putting my phone down, I'm putting it. I know exactly it's me in the same place. If it's not there, someone came and took it away from me. Which kid touched it? Because I know I always put my glasses in my drawer whenever I take it off. It's going to be in the same place over and over again. Because that's the only way we find things. Otherwise, it's going to be chaos. We lose it. We lose things because we didn't create a system for ourselves of creating order. And lastly, he says, some things will only work if they are ordered correctly, like a machine that requires every one of its parts to be in good working order and often in a specific sequence to function properly. I often give this example in speaking to my groups, right? I speak about this a lot. There's two kinds of order, and I speak about this in relationships, okay? There's two kinds of relationships. There's people who are in a marriage, and these are two people who live together. They have a lot in common, but they're living separate lives. There's a lot of orderliness there, but it's separate. So the example I use is like you go to the library and you see two books, one written by Jane and one written by John. They're married. They're two authors. You go to the library and you find both of their books on the same shelf in the same section of the library. They're touching each other. But those two books are forever separate, right? It's a decent marriage. They get along, but there's two separate lives. That's not the goal of marriage. The goal of marriage is this third point over here, like a machine. So the dugma, right? Sonny knows I love Porsches, right? He likes Mercedes, right? So you go with me to the Porsche dealer, and you see a Porsche, and it's beautiful, right? It's gorgeous. I come with you. I won the lotto. I say, which ones do you want? Okay. And you pick out the nice red one, and I say, look at the hood. It's beautiful, chrome engine. It's beautiful. It goes to 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. You know, it's chrome. It's metal. It's stunning. It's gorgeous. A work of art. Now, but when you look at a Porsche, do you see all the pieces that make a Porsche, or do you see a Porsche? Do you see a tire? Do you see a glass? Do you see a piece of chrome or leather, or do you see the totality of the car? And the answer is you see the totality of the car. Now, if I told you that a Porsche becomes a Porsche when you lower that beautiful engine into the chassis of that gorgeous body, and then you use a nut and bolt to like hammer it down into the car, and that's when it becomes one, right? How much value does a nut and bolt have on its own? Not much value. But when you're plugging that engine into that body, it's got a lot of value, right? Now, do you see the nuts and bolts of a Porsche? The answer is no, I don't. Why? Because every piece of that car relinquishes its identity to create the car. This is the goal of marriage, right? The goal of marriage is for two people to realize that they are one. Lihiyot basar echad. Okay, how do I do that? I recognize that I'm different than you and you're different than me. And all too often, my problems come from what I want versus what you want. Okay? And that's where the conflict begins. Me versus you. But if the goal, my friends, is to create something more, this is the hardest part of marriage. Ready? The hardest part of marriage is recognizing that, of course, we're talking about healthy marriages, right? When your spouse's wants and are your wants. Your wants are his wants, and his wants are your wants. It goes both ways. The reason why what gets in the way is me. My identity gets in the way. I always thought that I would have X, Y, and Z, right? But then he says, well, I always wanted A, B, and C. Doesn't match. Doesn't connect. So the reason why many relationships end is because they're not willing to let go of their vision of life, okay? And because they're scared of giving up themselves. I'm not going to give myself up for this other person. I don't want to lose me. I want to be me in this relationship. So what do? I fight until I get what I want, and that destroys the relationship. But what really should happen is I'm supposed to relinquish myself in this identity. Both of them are supposed to relinquish. And in that space of pulling back of what I want for the other person, I end up finding something more profound about who I am. I find a deeper part of myself that I could never express on my own. That's what's happening in the car. It's kind of like a unit in the army. I have 50 people in a battalion. Each one marches perfectly in unison. Now, if one guy in that unit decides to go off on his own and do his own thing, okay, does that make the unit stronger or weaker? Makes it weaker. When they are working and training together and they do everything in unison together, they're much more profound. That is a higher level of order. In order for me to make that unit a unit, what has to happen? Every member of that team needs to relinquish their identity for the sake of the team. But commander, my gut tells me we should go this way. The commander says, no, we're going that way. You want to go that way? You could go that way, but you're going to ruin the power of the unit. There's order that needs to be created from things. And all too often, my wants, my desires, my needs, my expectations, my imagination, my vision of a relationship, what I think I should have, my identity, gets in the way of creating seder in my life, in my relationship, in my world, right? My relation with Borei Olam comes from a lack of order in my life. It's all about order. Rabbi Shlomo Volbe says as follows: Seder can be compared to the clasp on a pearl necklace. The pearls are what make the necklace, but without the clasp, the pearls will scatter, leaving only empty string. Similarly, a person contains an abundance of strengths, intellect, characters, traits, qualities. But without seder, without order, all these virtues will scatter and you'll be left with nothing. No value. No value. The value comes from focusing, channeling those strengths into something much more profound. The Alter Kelm once went to visit his son. This is the story I told you about earlier. And the student was studying in a distant yeshiva. The first thing the father did when he went to visit the son's room, he didn't see the son. He went to see his son's room. He didn't go to see him in the Beit Midrash. He went to see his son's bedroom. Okay. On inspection, he found the boy's possessions were in order. He saw the shoes were in place. His clothing was folded. He just saw that. Okay. And from that alone, he could tell that his son was doing well in yeshiva. After he saw his son's bedroom, then he went to go see his son. Why? Because if my son's bedroom is in order, his outside world is in order, what am I going to find? An inner world that is in order. I have 6 kids. All my kids are amazing. I love all of them equally. But I have one kid who is a super, not the oldest one, my second oldest one, Akiva. Right? The oldest one is also a tzaddik. My second kid is also a tzaddik, but they're different, right? My other kid, when he was in high school, okay, he was so misudar that he would say, Abba, I'm setting a timer for 15 minutes, I'm playing a video game. Just make sure that in 15 minutes, I'm off. I'm like, who does that? Right? That's not a special kid. That's a special, his superpower is time. He is a master of time, okay? And that's what order is. Where does order come into in my life? How does it play itself out? Well, I become disorderly when I do what I feel like doing right now versus what I'm meant to be doing right now. And that's where the disarray comes from, right? The disarray comes from, I'd rather right now chill in a jacuzzi, or sit on some beach in some island and do nothing versus look in the mirror and say, why am I so lazy? Why aren't I being more? Why aren't I studying harder? Why aren't I pushing myself? Why aren't I growing? Why do I surrender myself to these moments as opposed to, you're right, but if you've learned anything in these classes and these conversations, just because I feel something and I want something doesn't mean that's the right thing for me. All too often, the things that I want are bad for me. So how does order play into this? Well, order plays in like this. And this is hard, but listen very carefully. Do you have a vision of what the best you looks like? I gave up on the vision? I hope not. It's never too late to have that vision. What does the best you look like? And if you have a clear vision of what the best you looks like, what are you doing right now to make that vision a reality? How are you bringing orderliness into yourselves? How do I become calmer, more humble? How do I become more forgiving, more understanding and patient and loving and caring? How do I do that? How do I stop being so judgmental? I know that those are things that I'm struggling with. Well, how am I working on being that? That's what order is. Order is asking the question, what does it mean to be the best you? How am I bringing that best version of you into my world, into my reality?
Nothing to do with the genes?
Forget about the genes right now.
Yeah, but you get to sit
My genes, I'll tell you, my genes tell me what I need to overcome. My genes don't define me. The mitzvot help me. Yeah, they help me, but they're not alone, because it's kind of like this.
you said you're born with this kind of
Yes, some kids are born with it, 100%.
Yeah, so you
But
can
that doesn't
change
mean, no, that's not true. That's where you and I disagree. I think you can change it.
it. You change it, but some people cannot. They don't have order. They don't.
No,
have
no,
this,
it's
this,
nonsense.
that.
That's not, I don't believe that. I reject that idea. I'll tell you why. It's like, there's a massive debate right now going on about birth control, right? There's a massive debate about birth control right now in this country. Right, not birth control, about birth control. Yeah, about abortion, not birth control. Right? Everyone agrees about birth control, but abortion. Okay? Should a woman have the right to abort a baby? That's the conversation right now going on in the country. Massive debates. Yes, pro-choice, no choice, blah blah blah. So,
The Jewish life is different.
1 second. Forget about the Jewish argument about abortion. That's a separate. Just if we were to take it from a completely secular perspective, this is the problem.
They agree for it.
Ready? 1 second. Forget about what they agree or don't agree. Let's talk about it from a moral perspective right now. Okay? How do we argue about abortion? What's the argument? Okay? Well, they're going to say, well, listen, today most states say by 24 weeks is when a fetus becomes a human being. And anytime before that, he's not human. Why isn't he human? He's not human because he doesn't have, he can't see, he can't hear, he can't taste, he can't feel, he can't breathe. And therefore, he's not human. So, what's the argument to that? Who says scientifically that at 24 weeks a fetus becomes a human being? Because ultimately, the argument is a life is a life. And we have no right to determine when a human being becomes a human being. Oh, you're going to tell me he can't hear, he can't taste, he can't feel, he can't see? What happens to a human being that's born that can't see and can't taste and can't hear? Should we just say they're not human also? Who determines when a human being becomes a human being? Since I cannot determine when a human being becomes a human being, an argument, I'm not saying it's my argument, an argument can be made that a life is a life at conception. And therefore, we have no right to terminate any child at any point, even if they're born with a horrible disease, because we can't determine what a human life is. That's an argument. I'm not saying that that's the halacha. I'm not saying that's what we do. I'm just saying that's an argument that can be made, and I respect that argument, because it's based on emet. Who says that that my definition is true? Just because I think that I am a certain kind of person, who says that my own definition of myself is true? You think you're impatient, you think that you're not kind, whatever that vision is in your own, who says that your own understanding of yourself is a true expression of who you are? Because I believe you can be so much more. We create limitations. Like, science says it's 24 weeks. That's nonsense. Who says that's true? Who says that's true? You think you know yourself? You can't even read the label on the jar because you're sitting inside of it. You can't. I could read it better than you can. I could sit with a person in a few hours and know them better than they know themselves. Why? Because they're biased. I'm not biased. I see it. You can't see yourself. I can see you. It's nonsense. We create limitations in our mind of what we think we can and cannot do. The idea of seder is to break boundaries by creating boundaries. What? I break boundaries by creating boundaries, right? I break my boundaries by saying, oh, I think I'm limited. I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm not smart enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not pretty enough. That's nonsense. Shtiyot. Rabbi, I can't make money. It's shtiyot.
Go to work. You have money.
Figure it out. Work. Push beyond the circumstances that you are in, and you will. You're right. You're right. That's right.
So they just said to the guy, you have headache, I have more headache than you.
100%. 100%. Listen to look at number 7 for a second. The Alter Kelm's successor and son-in-law was Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Brody. Was a classic product of the attention to order and characterized Kelm. His daily timetable was arranged with almost military precision, and it was said that you could set your watch according to Rabbi Brody's comings and goings. He was that misudar. Why? He wanted to be excellent. He was striving for greatness. Is there room for just chilling randomly during the afternoon? The answer is maybe, maybe not. Depends on the person. If you're chilling, it's part of the process of helping you find calm and peace and order so that you can do the chavod. Enjoy your vacation. Enjoy the time off. Take a 30-minute YouTube break, whatever you do, to relax. But ultimately, okay, if you don't have seder, order, vision, a place you're aiming for, a goal, you're walking aimlessly. You are not striving for greatness, you are making mistakes. And worse, you're going to live with regret.
That's worse.
Regret. The greatest regret that people have is, I wish I had more time, I wish I could go back and change my past. That's right, you can wish all you want. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. Remember we spoke about that? I can't change the past, but I can change the future. How can I change my future? But right now. Right now is how I change the future. What I do right here, right now. This is the consequences of disorder. Ready? The Greenbergs have a special hook for the car keys. Usually whoever uses the car returns the key to its place. One day, Mike took the car to the library. When he got back, he forgot to return the keys to the hook. In the evening, with the keys still in the pocket, he walked to a restaurant where he works. His mother is a nurse who works the night shift in the hospital. At midnight, she was ready to head out for work, but the keys were nowhere to be found. She looked at the table and the floor, then went through the cabinets. She started fuming. Who didn't return the keys? I'm going to be late for work. She had no choice other than to wake up her husband, but he didn't use the car. It must have been Mike, right? But he won't be home for another half hour. We'll have to take a cab to take you to work. One little misstep of disorder, of a break in the system, has tremendous breakdown in systems. That's an example on a chitzoni level. What about on an internal level? Oh, I don't want to get out of bed today. I'm feeling lazy. What am I doing today? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going this week. You know how much power there is in taking control of your lives? That control comes from seder, order. The more order, there must be some manhunt going on. There's a helicopter flying. I'm not sure you hear it. They want to try to break my order. The Alter Akelm says if a person were to be careless in his behavior, neither organized nor precise in his deeds, then he will be also confused in his thoughts and opinions. This has a external consequence. If we don't bring order to our lives, in our thoughts and our actions, okay, we don't bring order to our chitzoni world, our internal world becomes disorganized. That is a problem in itself, as a chaotic thinking makes for difficult living. But even more important was the recognition that inner and outer disorder interferes with our ability to serve God properly. And serving God properly is the whole point of life. It's not an exaggeration to say that the essential Jewish view of a well-lived life is one in which the role of being an Eved Hashem, a servant Hashem, has been perfected. What does it mean to be an Eved Hashem, to be a servant of the Lord? That means that I am someone who is disciplined. I am someone who is orderly. I am someone who is working hard. God doesn't care if you finish the task. You're not here to finish the task. You're here to start. It's up to God if you complete the task. I'm not here to go ahead and solve all the world's problems. I'm here to try to figure it out. God's my partner. You want to understand why Jews have succeeded so much? Because we have the chutzpah of trying things we have no right to try. We put ourselves in the positions, like some Hasidic guy from Williamsburg. He decides he's buying some medical company. Okay? He borrows money from his family, his community. He succeeds. He always succeeds.
Yeah.
Right? He has no college education. He has the chutzpah of trying something that no one else in America would try. And that's where success comes from. Our success, if you want to understand the Jewish secret to success, it comes from our deep desire to try things that we have no right to try. And in that place, we succeed. Israel should not exist as a country. When the British gave over the keys to the country, they knew that we would either starve or die of thirst, okay, and or killed by the Arabs. There's no success. Right? We took it something that made absolutely no sense, and we took a situation which was impossible and turned it into something magnificent. Today, the UAE signed a working agreement to do business with Israel. Right? They're trading partners. A trade agreement with the UAE today. It was crazy. Who would have thought that a massive, wealthy Arab country would sign a treaty with Israel to do business? What are we offering? Oh, intellectual property. I had a friend who's Muslim said to me, listen, you could look at a people's value based on what happens when they're not here. What would happen to the world today if the Jews weren't here? Think about all the things you have. This phone would not work right now if it wasn't for Israel. Right? What's that? The whole area, the whole world would be a very different planet. Right? The internet, so much of the internet, computing, cell phone chips, Intel, medicines. I mean, like, it's insane.
That's right.
Where does that come from? It's because we're smarter? No, we're not smarter, by the way.
Trying.
Even though, by the way, I'm not sure you know this, but Jews, on average, have a 10-point higher IQ than non-Jews. Okay? Which the difference between it's actually 15 points. The difference between a 15-point higher IQ, let's say from 110 to 125, is the difference between a college student and a high school student. Think about what you knew in high school and what you knew in college. That's the difference between an average Jew and an average non-Jew in America today. Okay, now, what does that mean, lama'aseh? Okay, that means nothing. Because you look at China, okay, they have 1.4 billion people, okay? You take 10% of the smartest people in China, highest IQs, you already have 140 million people, okay? You take the 1% of that 140 million, of the 10%, and now you're at 14 million people. That 14 million people, the smartest people in China, is the totality of the whole size of the Jewish world. Okay? You don't have the same success. It's not equal. Why? Not because that group, by the way, has a higher IQ than the whole Jewish world. But the difference is that we have the chutzpah to try things. We try to bring order from a world of chaos. That vision of I can do it, I will try, against the odds. I will fight against the scenario that I find myself in. This is where greatness comes from. This is where success comes from.
You know, they have a chutzpah. You got it.
That's right.
That's it.
Vayamat Sham Moshe Eved Hashem Be'etz Moav Al Pi Hashem. Right? He reaches this level of Eved. What is an Eved? A guy who's always serving. A guy who's always working. A guy who's always toiling. A guy who's always developing himself into something more. There is no resting on my laurels. There is no I'll get by leaning into my natural traits. There's only avodah. And avodah and eved is someone who's trying to bring order to his world. That's what an eved is. Are you a servant to orderliness? Are you a servant to achieving greatness? That's what it is. That's what order is. You say Lamanatseach le'eved Hashem David. Right? That's what David Melech says. For the leader, right, the servant of the Lord of David, that is what we're trying for. Eved, Avdut, it's a lifelong process to bring seder into our world. The world is chaotic. The world is disorderly. I need to bring order into the world. How do I do it? This is That's right. You got to be a slave to it. You got to be a slave to it. No question about it. Just like this, like the nut and bolt in the Porsche example. They are servants to the engine and the chassis of the car forever. But look what they create in that place of union and unity. They create a Porsche. They create that greatness. They're completely enslaved to it. Oh, but Rabbi, who wants to be a slave? I want to be a slave to greatness. I want to be a slave to perfection. I want to be a slave to being the best husband I can be. I want to be a slave to being the best rabbi I can be. I want to be a slave to being the best I can be in everything in my life. That's what we're here for. There is no freedom to do whatever I want to do whenever I want. That is chaos, my friends. If you told me that someone could do whatever they want whenever they want, that is chaos. That's not order. That's not order. To do whatever you want, to go whenever you want, is chaos. Two parents, one who has order, one who does whatever they want, will live by the seat of our pants. Well, which kid will be healthier? I don't need studies. I know the kid that is raised in a house of order will be a healthier, more functioning child than parents who do whatever they want whenever they want. Why is that? Boundaries are bad? No, boundaries are good. Kedusha, tzniut, is a boundary. I can't do whatever I want. There's boundaries. What are we protecting? Boundaries are always protecting something. Boundaries are protecting dignity. They're protecting value. They're protecting kedusha. I can't do whatever I want. I can't say whatever I want. There's words. I can't see whatever I want. Kedusha of the eyes. I can't hear whatever I want. Kedusha of the ears. There's boundaries, order, seder. Vayikra, Leviticus, right? Ki li b'nei Yisrael avadim avdehem. God says the Jewish people, You, my friends, are my servants. Asher hotzeti atam me'eretz Mitzrayim, ani Hashem Elokechem. I am your God that took you out of the land of Egypt to be my slave. V'yikach sefer habrit v'yikra be'oznei ha'am v'yomru kol asher diber na'aseh v'nishma. The Jewish people said, I will do no matter what. We're saying this on Saturday night. Shavuot is coming. On Shavuot night, we became servants to the Borei Olam. What is that servitude? To a life of perfection, a life of order. The mitzvot are there to create order and boundaries, so I can live a life of excellence. Sidur, what do we say? Yismach Moshe b'matnat chalko, ki eved ne'eman karata lo. Yismach Moshe, Moses was happy, will be happy. Why? Because the gift of his portion. What is that gift? Because he is an eved.
Yeah, but only at the end he got the eved.
That's right, because you can't experience. We're not finished in this world until the end, until 120. You can't achieve ultimate perfection and happiness until after we leave this world, because the world itself is a process. Every day is a choice. And what is the choice? Do I want to live a life of seder or no seder? What's the choice really coming from? Do I want to live a life of the rules to follow a path of greatness? Or do I want to do whatever the hell I want to do whenever I want to do it? Which one's more fun? Well, I'll say this, right? To do whatever I want to do is a lot more fun, but that won't give me the results I want. I live a life of doing whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want. I live a life with a lot of regret. Greatness comes from who? The people that are regimented. Oh, the basketball player? Oh, Michael Jordan? Yeah. He played basketball, 6 hours a day practicing, throwing a ball into a hoop over and over. Is he free? It's Michael Jordan. He's an Eved. Oh, but he's the best basketball player, one of the best basketball players that ever lived. What's that?
He gets a lot of money from
He did, but you see, we reward success. Greatness comes from boundaries, order. That's what I'm trying to get to you. There's this ridiculous notion that we have in the West. We've romanticized this idea of freedom. I can do whatever I want. America, I can have whatever I want. I could go wherever I could do. It's true. There's something to be said about choices, but you're not free to do whatever you want. So much of the West is broken today because of this idea. What would the world look like? What would America look like today if we told kids you're not free to do whatever you want, but there's the responsibilities you have first? You want freedom? Every freedom comes with a responsibility. What are you doing to preserve that freedom? How are you taking responsibility for that freedom? You want to have the freedom of speech? Are you protecting speech? How are you protecting speech? What are you doing to ensure that these freedoms are going to be protected? Nothing? All right. No order? Chaos. Chaos. You have a government today that's chaos. No order. No rules.
terrible.
No, it's crazy.
Over there, the Bible.
Crazy stuff, right? Cheshbon HaNefesh, number 15. All your actions and possessions should be orderly. Each and every one is in set place and at set time. Let your thoughts always be free to deal with that which lies ahead of you. How are you organizing your thoughts? How many times do you sit there and have a thought pop into your head? You're like, oh, I'll go there. No. Fight against the thought. Create discipline in your thinking. Create discipline in your emotions. Order. I come home and everyone's crazy. I could respond crazier. Or I could say, no, I'm bringing order to my emotions. I'm not allowing my emotions to define I'm bringing seder there. I want order there. I will hold back. I will wait to share things. I will wait a day or two before I go ahead and make my complaints because I want it to come out at the right time. I'll hold it. I'll be sovel, like we spoke about savlanut, right? Rav Simcha Zissel Ziv, the Alter Rebbe says, take time, be exact, unclutter your mind or create seder. All over the place. You're there, you're here, you don't know if you're going, you're coming, you're flustered. Just be clear. Why don't you have clarity? Because your external chitzoni world is not clear. How do you start with clarity? You know how you do it? Wake up in the morning, make your bed. Before you go to sleep, know what you're going to wear. Have a clear idea what you're doing every single moment in your day. Schedule your day. Don't let your day happen. Make your day happen. And in that process of making your day happen, you will find more happiness, more success, more reward. Much more so than the freedom to do whatever you want to do. Here's a poem by Benjamin E. Mays. Only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it. Don't seek it, don't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it. Give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute. But eternity is in it. How profound is that? Little minute. What's a little minute? Eternity is in a minute. We say in 1 second, you can get all the Olam Haba in 1 moment. But it's really made up of small little moments. Small little moments of time stitched together make seconds, days, weeks, months, and years. You want to know the success to Seder? It's how valuable is 1 minute for you? How valuable is 30 seconds for you? It's only 30 seconds, okay? No. 30 seconds is a lot of time for me. I have a lot to do. I'm a busy guy. I have a lot of things I want to accomplish. I'm just getting started. I'm just getting warmed up. This is me getting warmed up. It's endless. There's so much opportunity out there. Okay, so I gave you a little bit of homework. Okay? Your avodah for this week is like this. Think about the idea of order in your primary life spaces. Work, home, school. Now, answer the following questions to describe and analyze the situation you face. Okay, so how does order show up as an important feature of your work or in your home, in your relationships? How does disorder show up? Can you identify any practical costs of disorder? Okay, consider as well as the toll that disorder takes on people, including inner wear and tear. Is there any cost you would describe as a spiritual cost? Can you identify any impediments to creating more and better order in your work and workplace? Review your answer to those questions and go on the following activity. Identify where you could improve the order in your workplace. Be specific in identifying those specific areas. You can do the same thing with your relationship with your family, with your spouses, with your kids, and so on and so forth. Make a list of steps that you can take to create a more and better order in the work and workplace. Break down your list, cover the days and the weeks, and put it into practice. List what you'll do on Sunday, Monday, and so on. Pay special attention to the obstacles you have identified and standing in the way of you being more orderly in order to take the steps to overcome them. At the end of every day, record your experience in your accounting in your diary. You're bound to be, okay, now this is simple stuff. You have all the answers to the problems you have. But first, you have to agree to the idea that I can be more, that I want to take control. If you don't have that ratzon to bring order into a world of chaos, enjoy the chaos. You want to understand why so many people are depressed? You want to understand why so many people are unhappy today? It's because they have no vision for their lives. There's no clarity. They have no idea where they're going. They're just letting things happen. Seder? When I talk about my tefillah, it's called a sidur, right? Seder. Pesach, Seder. We understand order. Why? Why is it so important? You can't have freedom without order. You can't have freedom without rules. You can't play any game in life without rules. There has to be order. There has to be Seder. There is no hefkerut to do whatever I want. Disorder equals
Become a mess.
massive mess.
Yeah.
But more importantly, disorder is an expression of my unwillingness to strive for greatness. I've given up. When I see people who are disorderly, they've basically given up. People who are depressed, they're not cutting. What's that? Yeah, no, it becomes an addiction.
They're becoming lazy.
To be disorderly.
Lazy without
Yeah, it can become an addiction. Disorderliness can become an addiction, 100%. I mean,
When they give it to the depression.
oh, they're saying because they're chaos, they're thriving in their chaos. No, that once you're putting it together, it's no longer chaos. Chaos means that I'm not putting in effort in bringing structure to the chaos. So someone who's putting structure to the chaos, that's not that they can thrive through chaos and make money out of it. That's true. I could go to a company that's disorderly and then fix it. That's not me being chaotic. That's me being orderly. I'm talking about people that are out of control. People that don't have they allow. There's no system in place. They just say whatever they want to say. You know those people. They say whatever they say. They have no idea what they want. They're making problems. Everything is a mess. It's just
Let it go.
people. I find like this. You know what? Drug users often live in a world of chaos.
Of course.
Right? They can't bring order into their lives because they're so addicted. They start because they gave up a little bit. They give up. They trade that pleasure of those few moments of pleasure.
Commit suicide
I know all about the suicide rate in this country.
Rich people have so much money,
But
they commit suicide.
why are they committing suicide?
Because they have everything. They already have no meaning.
You could have. What about all the rich people who are not committing suicide? What do they have that the other rich people don't have? They have purpose, meaning, vision. They have order. They have seder. They know where they want to go. If you don't have,
Working hard.
if life is only about doing what you want to do, life becomes very dull very quickly. When life has meaning, purpose, it has focus, it has structure. When I have a clear vision of where I want to go, what I want to do, what I want to build, if I have a big, massive vision, right? What's it called? A big, hairy, audacious goal, a bahag, right? A big, hairy, audacious goal. When I have that in my life, I can't commit suicide. I have no time for depression. I have no time to deal with the stupidities and things. I'm focused. I have a very clear focus. In my marriage, I want to have achdut. I want to achieve unity. That's my goal. How am I getting there? My children, I want them to be successful. I want a relation with them. How am I bringing that relation to my kids? How am I fighting to build order in my relationships? What am I doing? And not to be overly orderly, but to create enough order so that there's a two-way street there, that there's a relation going back and forth. Right? I don't want to suffocate. I want to create the space for that relation to thrive. Right? But remember, the goal is to be balanced, not to be overly obsessed about the order, but to create enough space that you take the order seriously enough to move out of where you are right now. If you could do this, you will understand the holiday of Shavuot. The weeks, it's called weeks. 49 days, all the Middot, it's about bringing order into the world. We're going to the time of summer where there's no order. I can do whatever I want. I want to go to the beach. I want to run. I want to fly. I want to be free, right? And you think you'll be happy there?
No.
You won't be. I remember, I'll end with this. I have a rabbi who I'm very close to, Rabbi Lawrence Kelman, and I said to him, Rabbi, I feel like I need to go on sabbatical. I'm so burnt out. I've been running nonstop for the last 19 years, giving people at my house. I just need to take a year off. He's like, no, you don't. I'm like, what do you mean, no, I don't? I'm like, I just told you I do. I feel like burnt out. He's like, you need 5 minutes, he said to me. He's like, if you can't find 5 minutes to refresh yourself, 1 year won't help you. And he's so right. It's such a powerful truth. I hate it. I hate that he said that to me because I'd much rather go on my sabbatical. I just take the year off. But he's right, meaning we need 5 minutes of focus a day to achieve what we need to achieve. I'm not burnt out. It's in my head. I create a false scenario. It's nonsense. You are an infinite ball of potential. And if you stop believing in that, it means you've given into the chaos. You've given into the chaos. Okay, Midrash says that Abraham saw a palace on fire. And when he saw the palace on fire, he said, if there's a palace, there must be a king or a builder that built the palace. And everyone asks, why does he have to see the palace on fire? If the goal is to get him to see God, to find God, let him just see a palace. Why is it possible to be on fire? It's beautiful. Because the world that we live in has order, but the order is always chaotic. The house is burning. A house won't maintain its integrity unless it's constantly being taken care of. You got to replace some tiles on the roof. You got to fix some pipes. If you're not constantly bringing seder to the world of chaos that we live in, it's true there's seder. Right? Very nice. This is a nice room. It's a nice space. If it's not painted, this thing is not painted, by the way, and it's not taken care of, the wood here is going to crack and fall apart. Right? If we're not constantly taking care of, the building and so on and so forth, it's going to fall apart. We have to constantly commit ourselves to the order so that we can enjoy the space of chaos around us.
The people who are more spiritual, they're less depressed.
The people there's two kinds of, yes, I don't know if that's true. I know spiritual people that are depressed, but the point that I'm making isn't about, depression or not. All I'm saying is that if we're not actively working on bringing seder into our world, we're making a mistake. Because what you're trading, the trade-off is chaos, and the chaos is where most of your frustration and unhappiness comes from in life. Wishing you a week of success, a week of seder, a week of growth, a week of vision. Don't believe the nonsense that you've bought into. You could accomplish anything. You don't realize how awesome you are. Yeah.